Just looking at those two things, the weakness in equity, Charles, and what we're seeing with the 10-year, why isn't that indicating some type of issue in the future, some kind of slowdown, some type of break in the Goldilocks scenario?
What's interesting, Joe, good morning, thank you for having me, is that last year's narrative versus this year is distinctly different. Last year we were concerned about how many rate hikes the Fed was going to implement. This year it's not an issue of rate hikes. Everyone knows they're on hold for a long time. It's an issue of what are earnings going to be and how is the economy going to perform. And the bond market is telling a different story and a different narrative than the equity market. The stock market is within a couple of percentage points at the all-time high. The bond market, the curve between the 3-month T-bill and the 10-year, is inverted once again. It was inverted a few months ago. It's now inverted a little bit again. If this goes on for a sustained period of time, people will say that this is reflecting a concern about a recession. But the stock market's not telling us that. So they're two different stories. And the 10-year, meanwhile, is a pretty low yield right now, obviously.
Which is the right one? Which is the right story?
Both can't be right.
So which one's right?
So, with President Trump, you can build. He's great at building buildings on the West Side. He's great at licensing his name. But dealing with Chinese policymakers is a different game. And it reminds me of the Michael Ovitz situation when he became CEO of Disney. You put a guy who's good at one thing into another job where it's a different skill set. And it raises a question to me whether he understands his audience. People who are very familiar with the Chinese say that they are very smart, who have done business with them for decades.
I don't.
Very
You'd
smart.
rather have a peanut farmer or a former actor or a former community activist
Right.
or a former baseball.
Now, the former actor.
Or
the former
Joe
actor.
Biden. He's been a politician since he's 29 years old.
Exactly.
Never had a real. You'd
Exactly.
rather have one of those.
No.
Oh, okay.
Here's the thing. Because they had a former life doesn't necessarily make them bad, but it doesn't guarantee success either.
Okay. Let me get to Craig. Craig's all excited because
nothing else has worked. I live with the Chinese guys now for 15 years. They don't play fair. Everything else we've tried in terms of organizing other countries against them hasn't worked. I'm okay with the new guy trying something different because I get screwed every day, every single day.
People wouldn't dispute the notion that prior trade deals need to be renegotiated. I think what people are concerned with is the tactics that the administration has elected to use to achieve desired ends. And so the question is, if you try to push the Chinese into a corner, and they're a proud people, strong, high conviction, long-term oriented, might that work against you? Might they say, you know what, we'll stick this out. We'll go beyond just 2020. We'll
all
go
right, let me
much
get to
further.
Craig's all excited. He's been telling us this for years. Recent volatility in the stock market is driving stock picking comebacks. You've been saying that. You need. It's not a market of stocks. It's not a stock market. It's a market of stocks. And I don't want to get you mad. He turns green and turns into the Incredible Hulk.
Don't turn me green again.
No, I don't want that to happen.
Don't turn me green again.
You've been talking about stock picking for a while. You were right all this time.
The market, we believe, is setting up for potential big things. I mean, it's been a difficult year in that you get these starts and stops. The economy somewhat is from our channel checks we're doing, we do about 2,600 company touches over about 850 companies. Things seem to be pretty good. There's optimism out there, although it's not showing up necessarily with investors. And there are the have and the have-nots of the investment world. There's a lot of stocks that trade very high multiples that everyone seems to be crowded into. And there's this whole other part of the market that's been left for dead that trades, 10 times earnings that are going much faster than that. So it is a stock picker's market, and that's showing up this year. We're having a tremendous year. But
O'Leary needs, he's getting out of all his auto holdings at this point. Hates them. So he can use some of maybe these would work for you, O'Leary. Capri Holdings is one of yours, right, Craig? Michael Kors, Jimmy Choo, and Versace, apparently.
Versace.
I'm sorry. Did I mispronounce that? Anyway, how's that sound to you, O'Leary?
I've migrated into safety. I was just looking at the last 2 weeks. J&J is my biggest holding now. How about something boring like Cisco Systems? How about Procter & Gamble?
You've got some stock. You taking notes, Hodges? What else?
Well, Versace's down 40% from its highs, down 20% in the last month, trades about 8 times earnings, about 1 time sales, and has 3 tremendous brands that all the negatives are already factored in. Expectations are very, very low. That's the kind of things we're looking for at the Hodges.
He sees your J&J and raises you one Texas Pacific Land Trust, Craig?
Yeah, not too many people know about Texas Pacific Land Trust. We've been in the stock for 20 years. They've got 900,000 acres of land in the Permian Basin area. The stock was set up in 1888 as a trust. There's a battle going on for control of this thing. There's an investor group that own about 25% of the stock that want to make it a C corporation instead of being a passive organization. They want to make this more of an active organization. I think there's a pretty good chance they get to do that.
I just got to get to Waitr Holdings because it's spelled wrong. W-A-I-T-R. An online food delivery and food ordering platform. I haven't heard of it yet.
Yeah.
But they work with 24,000
they're in the small markets.
restaurants.
Yeah, they're in the small markets. It's real crowded space with Grubhub and DoorDash in the upper end. But they're in about 700 cities, 24,000 restaurants, very small markets. We think it's an acquisition candidate. It's backed by the biggest holder is Tillman Fertitta. We think that's a pretty good opportunity in this small cap stock.